Gamercast number 138 continued. This is Gerald, better known as Yes Elvis Lives, and I'm here today with two more awesome members of the Gamercast, and also a member and host of a galaxy far, far away. I've got first off Glenn Stanway here, one of the producers of Box Art, the documentary. And am I missing anything, Glenn?
I don't think you are. I am also an associate producer of Nintendo Quest, producer of the Nintendo Quest Gamer Cast with Jay and Rob, and generally all around handsome fella who does podcast related assorted things. Thanks
Fair
for
enough.
having me, Joe.
Oh,
Good to be here.
great to be on for you, have you on the show. And of course, we have the man who doesn't want to be called the star, um, the main protagonist, as I like to put it sometimes, of Nintendo Quest, one of the highest rated films of the year. That's no, as I said on the previous time we talked about this, that's no BS, that's no bull. It is just basically if you want to go to nintendoquest.com and read the library full of great reviews that Rob McCallum has posted. It is Nintendo Quest. It is available on Vimeo with extra bonus features. It is also available on iTunes and Amazon.com. It is Jay Bartlett, who also hosts a Galaxy Far, Far Away podcast and is also one of the great hosts of GamerCast.
Hello, my friends. How are things in Las Vegas?
Mild, 60 degrees right there. Nothing too cold, nothing too warm, no snow, no rain, no nothing. It's gonna
That's
be a
good.
I was
Really
I
warm
was
here.
telling I was telling Gerald off air that we have pretty much as much snow as he does right now. It's very, very mild in this part of Canada this year, unseasonably so.
I'm good with that.
we need a little bit. We need the rain here more than anything, because it's so dry here in the desert. But
Well, we got plenty of that.
there you go. There you go. Indeed, but we are here today to not just talk about the weather in various parts of Canada and in the great west coast here of the United States, but we're here to talk about Star Wars The Force Awakens. It is breaking virtually every box office record. It is also breaking, actually, when you're coming down to breaking the Monday record and the Tuesday record, and then you probably hear the Wednesday record, and it gets down to it's a very successful film. Hasn't even reached China as of yet because I won't debut, I believe, until early next month, but is already going like gangbusters. It is already knocking on the door of 700 million, if I'm not mistaken. Getting close to it, indeed. It is a film that has just surpassed a lot of people's expectations. We reviewed it on our site, yourgamesource.com, on the In Case You Missed a page. So if you get a chance to watch that, check it out. But we are here today to talk some Star Wars The Force Awakens. And I know, Jay, you host your own Star Wars related podcast, one of these, well, actually the best Star Wars podcast on the air.
Oh,
And
thanks.
well, speaking of that, your thoughts,
Good save, Gerald.
there you go. Your thoughts initially as you sat down, because you probably more than any other human being I know on the planet, because outside of the great collection that you have in Nintendo Quest that was outlined, if people got a chance to see it, you're kind of maybe a small Star Wars fans as well, and you knew this indie film was coming out. The small indie low budget film was coming out pretty soon on December 18th, but great anticipation. So, what were your thoughts going in?
Ever since I saw the very first of the three major trailers, I felt secure. I felt safe with it. All the big Star Wars fans had the same kind of reaction where it's like, uh-oh, Mr. Star Trek has his hands on my baby. What's going to happen to it? But as soon as that very first shot with Finn popping up, I knew we were going to be okay. Now when I talk to people, at work, or I talk to people on the street or at home or whatnot, it's not, have you seen it? It's how many times have you seen it?
Yeah.
And when are you going again, kind of thing. So, that's something that's very rare. I know a lot of people saw like the Avengers and stuff like that multiple times, but this is almost like you're guaranteed to at least go 2 or 3 times. Even casual Star Wars fans are going 2 or 3 times.
Glenn, what were your thoughts as you were heading into it? Because I know, like I said, you've on podcasts with Jay, you've talked a little bit here and there about the Star Wars lore with him. I've seen also on the Power Tour, which is now in episode 3, which is available if you want to check that out as well. It's 3 great episodes that are actually available for the behind scenes of Power Tour. I know you've talked personally to Jay about the Star Wars lore and your anticipation for that. So tell me your thoughts going in.
Yeah, I'm definitely a Star Wars fan. I am certainly not the Star Wars fan that Jay is. I don't think that's any mystery. I don't know that anybody is the Star Wars fan that Jay is. So for me, I was definitely excited to see the film, but I think more important to me than that was I knew this is going to be my first chance, and it was a very unique opportunity to get a chance to see a Star Wars film in a theater for the first time with Jay in the same theater. And that was something I was really, really excited for, just because I know how much it meant to Jay, and I was really looking forward to getting a chance to being able to sit, in pretty close proximity to him and kind of see his reactions and get a chance to talk to him when it was all still really, really fresh. I didn't really know what to expect from the film because I know J.J. Abrams obviously has a very different visual language than George Lucas does, and that's something that Rob and Jay and I have talked about on the podcast before. So I wasn't sure how much it was going to look like the Star Wars films we recognized. They haven't been openly promoting it as Episode 7. It's just Star Wars: The Force Awakens. So there was a question in my mind as to whether or not there was even going to be an opening crawl. Like, how different were they going to make this film? How many wrenches were they going to kind of throw in the works that might be a little off-putting to old fans? But I was along for the ride right away. I mean, it felt, after that opening sequence on Jakku, it felt every bit a Star Wars film. It was like slipping into a nice, really well broken in pair of boots or something. It was comfortable and it felt like Star Wars. And I was along for the ride, and I lost track of how many times I found myself grinning like an idiot at something that was going on screen without even really noticing that I was doing it. So I was a happy camper, to say the least.
I want to touch on real quick as far as what Jay had talked about, as far as the animosity some had, as far as JJ being a Star Trek guy going into Star Wars. I will say, for me, and I mentioned this with Rob, that Star Trek, the movie, the reboot, was probably one of the best films of this modern era of the past 15 years to me. And especially the way it started off is just truly incredible. Incredible filmmaking, in my opinion. So I was not as apprehensive on it. I knew JJ would be able to put out a great product, and I believe he has. He's put out a very strong product. I know Rob and I talked about a lot of things that we'd like to have seen differently, or maybe some questions arise about it. But those are just a little things aside. Overall, to me, I've seen it twice now. It's just a lot of fun, and you go there and you enjoy it, and that's what the essence of movie making and movie watching should be about. Is bringing people back to the theaters, which is something that hasn't been said for a little while now. And Jay, the things that you get most from the film, as far as it's concerned, what are your what when you were watching it? Obviously you enjoyed it so much, and you've said such great things about the film as a whole. What were you taking away so much about it, as far as it's concerned, and your hopes for the future?
Well, I hope it brings people back to Star Wars. I know there's a lot of people that kind of gave up on it. I was not one of them. I kind of, I stuck through it. I don't call it the good and the bad. I call it the good, the good and the tough times, because not all Star Wars has been good. I took out of it, I mean, it was such a different vision from what the expanded universe had been laid out for me since the early 90s. In the early 90s, are we allowed to talk about spoilers or no?
Oh, hold on.
It's up to you.
Oh, absolutely. I've got it plastered, and I want to make sure everybody knows again, even though it says there at the top of the screen on our Twitch channel, and also we'll be posted on YouTube, that, and also if you're listening on audio MP3, it is spoilers. We are going to talk massive spoilers here. So if you have not seen the film, or if you don't want to know what's going on in the theaters in the movie as of yet, you might want to maybe turn down the volume a little bit until we talk later in the show about Game of the Year stuff. But yes, we are talking massive spoilers here. So I was going to get into that in a little bit. But yes, Jay, go right ahead on your thoughts. And because I know you had talked about previously your thoughts on the film. and as far as it's concerned. So I know you had a lot of great hopes in watching it, and your anticipation in it was just at such a high level.
Right away, and I can't speak enough about the intro scene. The village on Jakku is maybe one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars. Of course, the great Max von Sydow isn't in that scene for a very brief period of time. He plays Lor Santika, who is a disciple of the Church of the Force. He's not a Force-sensitive user, but he worships the ideals of the Jedi. He has a part of the map to give to Leia that leads to Luke Skywalker. So right away, I'm on board. That was part of the script that I had read about a year and a half ago, where it was this hunt for Luke. Everyone was trying to find Luke. And I thought that was one of the most brilliant ideas, that Luke has become almost like this myth. He's become this legend. I mean, no one's seen him for a long time. Does he exist still? Did he ever exist, kind of thing? And like I was saying, in the expanded universe, Luke goes on to create the new Jedi Order. Han becomes a great general. Him and Leia are married. They have 3 kids who are Force sensitive. The way Lawrence and JJ wrote it is very different, and I like it so much better. Luke has failed in his attempt to create the Jedi Order. It's fallen to one of his young apprentices, Ben Solo. Han and Leia have a kid, but they are no longer together because, again, the same character has fallen to the dark side. Han blames himself, Leia blames her. They separate. So everything that we've come to know from the expanded universe is kind of thrown out the window. And I don't think they did that intentionally. I think that's just the way that they wanted to tell the story. And I think it feels so right, especially at the end of the film when you see Luke. Luke's worn. He's battle worn. You can tell he's been through hell and back, and he's afraid. And I don't think they could have done a better job, to be honest, with the main story.
Glenn, your thoughts as far as the dynamic between the Solos and seeing as far as their despair as far as and depression in seeing their son, I guess, now embody the spirit that is the dark side.
Wow. That is a big question. I do like that with Han and Leia, we kind of got it. We got to have our cake and eat it too. They did get together, so I mean, I think anybody who anticipated that after the end of Return of the Jedi got a little bit of payoff. That we see that at some point at least they had a family and they were happy. So it's not complete misery and darkness, but I do think it gives us something that's a little bit meatier from a dramatic perspective to chew on, to have their son kind of be the impetus of all this kind of terrible stuff that's happening and has happened. I'm kind of curious about the timelines. I feel like Kylo Ren isn't old enough for him to have turned to the dark side very long ago. So I'm kind of curious to see how this unfolds in the sequels that follow. I'm really curious to see what the events were that sort of drove him in that direction. Like we know that it's very likely that Snoke manipulated him in some fashion, but I find it hard to believe there wasn't some sort of event or something that happened that sort of kicked that off or helped push him in that direction. And I'm really interested to hear a little bit more about that. I'm also curious if that's the sole reason that Luke decided to go into exile. I feel like there's probably more to it than that. And I'm kind of curious to get a sense of what Luke's character and what Luke's mindset is at this point in his life. And after having, as Jay said, tried to, follow this dream of rebuilding the Jedi Order and ultimately having failed at that, after having such, great success in sort of bringing, resurrecting the Jedi and kind of bringing his father back from the edge of dark place as well. So, no, I think it's a great dynamic, and I think it's really interesting to watch, and I think it makes those scenes between Han and Leia really hold a lot more weight than they might have otherwise done. I found myself getting really emotional at the first scene that Leia enters in and kind of talks to Han again for the first time, and Chewie sort of just soundlessly walks over and gives her a hug. And I found that like dialogue would have ruined that, but there's a lot of stuff that's happening without words there that I found really moving, and a lot of it's that subtext of all those things that you've learned as an audience member while you're watching the film already.
No, absolutely. Excellent points indeed. And do you think, as far as it's concerned, it seems like a natural that's where they're going to go from there as far as with Luke Skywalker's character in episode 8 is him, you discovering more about what happened, a little bit of the backstory, more as far as the downfall of the Jedi Order that he was trying to build, and more on his thoughts on his conflict between, what he should be doing and what he is doing at the moment. Do you see more of that in episode 8?
I think so. I mean, he's obviously failed into trying to build the new Jedi Order, so he's gone to find the first Jedi Temple to get some sort of spiritual realization. Who knows? But he's gone there for a reason. And I do love at the end of the film how, Rey is the quote unquote hero, the Force user and such. But at the end of the film, she is giving his saber back to him. Like, we need you, Luke. Like, you have to come with us. Like, the whole time it's been built up where, even JJ said this is a passing of the torch kind of film. And that was kind of misleading because I don't believe it is. I believe Han was killed for a reason. And I believe that Luke isn't going to be taken out like that. I think Luke is here to stay, and Luke is still going to be the main hero. I really do think that.
Do you think that Han Solo's willingness to participate in the film was based solely off the fact that character gets killed off? Glenn, your thoughts?
I know Jay's gonna.
I know Rob and I have discussed that at length. That because for
Jay
years,
and I did too. Jay and I did too. We were talking the other night after recording a GamerCast episode, and I said to him that Han being killed off in the film wasn't a surprise to me at all. Like, I basically felt as soon as Harrison Ford agreed to do the film that it was a foregone conclusion that Han was a goner. And Jay kind of disputes that. And I know if you read some interviews with J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan, they'll dispute that as well. I think they feel like that's a decision they came to as they were writing the script. And I won't dispute that, but I don't think Harrison Ford's disdain for Star Wars is something that has gone unnoticed. I actually find it really refreshing that he was as much of a team player as he was when it came to promoting the film. He seemed really, really on board. But I don't know. I think it's very important to establish who Kylo Ren is and the conflicts that Kylo Ren is going through. And ultimately, I think the development of that character is worth the sacrifice that had to be made. And what I've been saying to people who are upset about it, I've had some friends who are really bummed out by it. I know Jay's had people posting comments on his Kylo Ren cosplay pictures, harassing him because he killed Han. And my response to that is like, do you really want to see one of the best characters in cinema die in his sleep in an old man's home? And the answer is no. You want to see him go down guns blazing, and I feel like that sacrifice is a fitting end to a character who really deserved it.
But in the end, that's his gimmick. That's what brought him to the table more than even his blaster ability or his flying ability or whatnot. It was his way he could always, at least in his mind, talk himself out of scenarios because he's his character has that silver tongue. And be able to get him out of those situations. And he thought he could do it one more time here, obviously in the movie. He could do it one more time here in that sense. Jay, you're shaking your head no?
I don't agree with that at all, actually. No, finish your point. That's cool.
No, because that's what he, his character had even said, I'll talk my way out of it. Because he thinks, Han Solo, to me, I always thought that was his best weapon, was the way he could talk people out of situations.
I'm just going to interject for 1 second, and all I'm going to say is I want to hear what Jay has to say too. I don't think you're completely off base, Gerald, but I think it really speaks more to the man that Han became through the course of the original trilogy, as opposed to the scoundrel we met in New Hope. It is his son, and there's a genuine desire to kind of heal some wounds, I think, in that action that he takes. But I'll let Jay chime in on that.
He did it for Leia, 100%. You can see it in his face. when they're at the Resistance base there, and he keeps saying, our son is gone, and she's like, no, no, there's light in him. You have to go, and he's just kind of like, I have to do this
Well,
kind of thing.
she did put that faith in him to do it because he was reluctant to do it, and I will agree with you that it was her insistence to try and reach out to Kylo Ren was the impetus of that. But I also believe that Han Solo's confidence in the way he can, communicate with people as far as it's concerned. Uh, Obviously, he feels he's always felt. I guess according, watching the movie, there was that scene early on as far as whether in the freighter where he felt that he could talk his way out of the situation, and I know that going in he went with his son that he could probably try and reach him as far as it's concerned once he got that impetus from Princess Leia or General Leia, excuse me.
Yeah, I guess I don't think it was. I know you're not implying it was like a scoundrel kind of thing, like trying
No,
to.
but that's his best ability. That to me is his best
Yeah,
ability is as far as over the course of all the pictures, all the Star Wars films, that's the best trait that he has. Yes, he's a scoundrel. Yes, he's great at all the things he did as far as with his use of blasters, with the way he could fly the Millennium Falcon, and all the prior tricks he knew. But the best way he could always get himself out of himself situations was by trying to talk himself out of it.
yeah. It was nice to see that. It was nice to see that again from Han because I really lost interest in him by Return of the Jedi. I think Han lost all his character. So it's nice to see him kind of come back to a New Hope Han, where he is a scoundrel and he owes Conja Club money and he owes this guy money, and he's caught in the middle of it, and he lost the Falcon again, and he's just he's a mess, right? He swindled everybody in the galaxy. Really nice to see that character come back.
Because you
Uh,
thought you thought after all these years he would be well off and he'd be doing very well for himself with Leia and
That's the way it
whatnot.
was always written. And again, I'll say there was always something about the expanded universe that I was never fully invested in because it wasn't officially written by George, or whoever was in charge of Lucasfilm. So there was always a chance, like the origin of Boba Fett, that if George wanted to come forth with his own story, that would have been wiped out, and Boba Fett was wiped out. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah. I mean, I really did like how Han came to be his old self again. And I think everyone knew when he walked on that catwalk. And I think even Han knows that it's do or die, pretty much. You can just kind of tell.
Fair enough. Now, Glenn, as far as your thoughts on Rey, who I said previously with Rob is a tremendously well-developed character. Daisy Ridley just did a tremendous job, and virtually the entire cast did that was allowed to be able to expand themselves on the screen. Really did it just a tremendous job as far as it's concerned on screen. So all the performances were really solid that were able to expand on their characters. But your thoughts specifically on Rey, who, as far as it's concerned, looks like she's, as you said, carrying taking the torch and going forward as far as it's concerned.
I think the biggest compliment that I can give the movie in a lot of ways is that I care as much about the new characters as I cared about the returning ones. I thought they did a really great job of establishing those characters and make them really interesting and really entertaining. I think Ray's fantastic. I adore Ray. I think she's a great character. I'm really interested to see. I think obviously the really big lingering question after Force Awakens is who is Ray? What is Ray's backstory? Where did she come from? What is her parentage that she comes by these force powers that she has adapted to so quickly, or at least is finding some degree of control over so quickly? And I'm really interested to see the answers to that stuff. I think there's a generation of girls who are going to grow up watching this movie and idolizing Ray, and I think that's fantastic. I'm just blown away to see such an awesome, strong female presence in a film leading this ensemble cast. And I know Disney's taken a lot of flack from certain parties over the last year because they've done such a poor job of marketing their female characters in other franchises. There's no Black Widow merchandise out there for Avengers. Star Wars Rebels merchandise focuses largely on the male characters, and all I can say is they better get their act together with Rey, because I have a feeling that's going to really be a paradigm shift for them in that regard.
Jay, your thoughts as far as it's concerned on Rey? As Glenn said, just a strong female character, just awesome. I have $2 myself, so they really appreciated her efforts in the film. But your thoughts, and maybe on her, but also as well John Boyega, as far as the future for Finn is concerned as well.
Every single actor in this film, I thought, did such an incredible job, and they had such personality and character to them. I mean, I didn't even mind the humor. Like, John Boyega had a lot of humor to his character. I thought it was. What the? Are you eating?
Hungry. He's hungry as we're doing this talk.
Just got home from work. Got to fuel the tank.
I thought they both did fantastic jobs. I think JJ and Lawrence did a great job of kind of misguiding the audience, where you think Finn is going to be the Jedi. Finn is going to be the Force user, when in fact he has no Force powers whatsoever. And it turns out that Rey is in tune with the Force, and turns out to be the one who topples Kylo Ren. So.
But he's able to use the lightsaber, which I thought, many had believed that was only a Force power.
That was cool. Yeah, I mean, he definitely was not good at it. I mean, he was using it like a sword, right? But he had no guidance with the Force or anything. So I love that scene with the shock stormtrooper there, that little fight they have. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. It's cool to see that. And when he goes against Kylo at the end, I mean, Kylo just wipes the floor with him, right? Obviously. But it was a cool little twist to have Rey be the one to come out on top.
Was it a surprise to you at all that Daisy Ridley's character was so developed her Force powers? Obviously she hasn't fully, expanded upon them, but as far as the fact that by the end of the movie she had gone from not knowing she even had Force powers to, being able to compete with Kylo Ren and actually come out victorious. At least for the short term, as far as in a battle with him. Glenn?
I can't explain why. Oh, sorry, Glenn, that was yours.
It's all right, man. I was just going to say, and I'm sure Jay has some thoughts on this too, obviously. So I'll let him chime in too. But I think as Yoda taught us in the original trilogy, it's do or do not. There is no try. I think when you're aware of the Force, and if you're truly connected to it, it's not a matter of training. I think there is some degree of being able to use it innately. And I think she maybe didn't have the baggage to get past that maybe, say, Luke did in Empire when he was training and learning how to use his Jedi powers to their fullest. Aside from that, I love the fact that I love the notion that somebody can just pick up a lightsaber and use it. I've never understood the notion that only a Jedi could. I don't think you can use it well, just as you wouldn't be able to use any other tool well if you weren't trained how to use it.
This is true.
But I don't think there's anything saying that somebody shouldn't be able to pick up and use it. As far as the fight with Kylo Ren goes, I think that's more of a comment on Kylo Ren's character than it is on Rey. We see throughout the movie that he's brash, he's emotional, he loses his temper really easily. He's obviously still very, very young. As I said, I don't get the impression that he's been a disciple of the dark side for a tremendously long time. So I think he's still learning a lot about himself as well. I think that's what's really, really interesting. We're not seeing Luke taking on Darth Vader, who's been in control of his powers for decades. We're seeing two young people who are really still learning to use their powers, fighting each other.
And even Snoke said himself, Supreme Leader Snoke said, bring him back to me to complete his training, so to speak, because you obviously see he still had a ways to go in his own training.
I think in a lot of ways, watching Kylo Ren is kind of like watching Darth Vader with training wheels almost. I don't mean that to be derogatory, but I have to feel like this is almost like these are the steps, these are the baby steps, these are the growing pains that Darth Vader almost certainly went through as he was adapting to his power in the dark side and the Emperor's tutelage that we never got to see. Only we get to see it now with a different character who's going through a lot of what I think must be some of the similar things. And I really love that notion of him fighting as opposed to kind of fighting against being turned to the dark side, he's almost fighting to keep the light out. I know Jay and I were talking about that the other night, and I think that's a really, really cool idea. But I'm sure Jay has some thoughts on that subject as well, so I'll turn it over to him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Jay, it's one of the things I wanted to add in there before I let you go ahead and speak on Kylo Ren, because I know you have such an affinity for the Kylo Ren characters. I think one of his greatest traits that he showed in the movie was his, like Glenn said, the conflict that he still even has, or at least had until he caused the demise of Han Solo, was that he was having this conflict between the light and dark side. And I think that to me just really just grew the character even more. And but your thoughts on Kylo Ren as far as his development and where you see it going forward for him?
I think he's about to get into a world of hurt with Snoke. I think Snoke is going to really damage him as far as just making him even more evil. I have no doubt that killing his father was, that's kind of the final nail in the coffin. Like if there's any kind of light left in Ben, that was it.
There's a no turning back now at this point.
Save for maybe killing his mother. I mean, if Leia's got to go too, because it seems to be his parents keep drawing him back, and he's feeling their love. And there's a beautiful moment at the end of the film when they're in the snow, and it's Finn and Ray and him, and he's like, "It's just you and I now," and he's terrified looking, like he's scared. And it's almost like you can see the compassion, and then he starts to slam on his wound.
Because
And
yeah, with the one that Chewbacca shot at him, yes.
yeah, he starts to slam on it, and blood starts to spray out. So he's getting the anger and the pain going. Because the light, I see the light when he's talking to them, that he feels the compassion. He's trying to shut that out. So it's really cool. It's something that we've never seen before in a Star Wars movie, where the light is corrupting. And again, there's that whole point of view thing, right? That Obi-Wan always talks about. I believe that Kylo Ren sees what Luke did to his grandfather is corruption. The Empire was order in the galaxy. Everything ran smoothly. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of systems that didn't approve of it, but it still ran like clockwork. And then Luke comes in and messes up everything, corrupts his father to the light side. That's really cool. That's something, honestly, that I gotta say I've never really thought about too much. That the light could be seen as a corruption as well. Yeah, I loved his character from the beginning, but definitely, I mean, I like Adam Driver. I think he's great, and seeing him without the mask and his emotions, like Glenn said, he's very young. He's very full of passion. He's very arrogant and cocky, and his lightsaber skills aren't that great. So it's really cool to see him. Yeah, he's by far, besides Luke, he's by far my favorite character in Star Wars.
Well, he might be the most interesting character, and he's the character to me, at least the one that you can just go in so many different directions going forward for the next two movies. I think he holds the most promise and the key for obviously the success to the movies, even more so than Ray or Finn or whatnot, because just like you said, because without there would be no great heroes unless you have an even greater or just as great villain in this case, and I believe it's up to him to carry those movies, the following 8 and 9, if he's allowed to live in 9, for those movies to be great going forward.
I mean, everything about the character is it's just so interesting, down to his lightsaber, which originally everyone thought were cross guards to stop from your hands getting cut off, which is not the case. They're vents, because his crystal is cracked, and this is only something a true Star Wars nerd would know. So his crystal is cracked. It doesn't form a straight beam of light. It's like a fiery beam with static. And that's what I believe, because it's just a shoddy job. He's not a full-fledged Jedi or in two with his force power. So his lightsaber is really crappy. It's an ancient design. It's an old Republic design, also leading me to believe that Snoke is very old and ancient, possibly even older than Palpatine was.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. And Glenn, just some final takeaways that you have, and I'll get back to Jay as far as his as well. But just some final takeaways, because we're here on Game Source Podcast number 138. I'm here with Jay Bartlett and Glenn Stanway, both of the GamerCast, and also as well podcast A Galaxy Far, Far Away. But Glenn, some final thoughts that you want to take away, that you're taking away from Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and what your hopes are for the future on that.
I'm just thinking about Kylo's lightsaber based on what Jay was talking about, and yeah, he's not great with it, and I love how it reflects his personality, and it is big and it's heavy and it's kind of clumsy, and he's not especially delicate with it. It's like he uses it like a club almost, and I think that's really interesting because I think that's such a great reflection of the character. But I'm so looking forward to seeing these characters again. All of them, the new ones, the old ones. It was great to be reminded of why I have such affection for all of these characters, but it was also great to be introduced to new ones that I care about equally as much. And I'm really, really interested to see where things go. I think if I have two criticisms about the movie that really stand out for me, one is I do think that Finn gets a bit shortchanged in terms of the moral decision that he makes. I think his decision to sort of turn away from the First Order is a little bit shortchanged. I think that's a very significant thing, and I hope that we get a chance to explore that a little bit more fully.
I would love to see
in the next couple of films.
I would love to see kind of like a Return of the King, the way the Return of the King started off with a backstory. As far as is concerned, I'd love to see the episode 8 start off with a little bit, maybe just 5-10 minutes of backstory of how he came to be in the First Order, something like that. But that might, tell a bit more, but
for
possibly.
sure. For sure. No, I would. I think it's a huge thing that he did, and I think the movie doesn't really get a chance, or for whatever reason doesn't choose to kind of pay as much attention to that as I think it deserves. So I'm curious to explore that a little bit more. The other one would be if there is something that everybody's saying about it, whether they mean it as a positive or a negative. This film adheres really, really closely to what's sort of been the established Star Wars, I don't know, formula, if you want to call it that. It feels a lot like one of the original Star Wars films, and it plays out a lot like New Hope. A lot of the story beats are almost beat for beat, just like New Hope. I know that that's probably a conscious decision because they realize what a burden they had in terms of introducing this film to an audience of people, not only who's a new generation of Star Wars fans, but people like Jay and myself who grew up watching Star Wars. But I really, really hope that now that they've done that and they've helped establish this universe a little bit more, we can see some of these new filmmakers really get a chance to kind of put their own stamp on Star Wars and make it their own, to do something that's maybe a little bit more risky or a little bit more interesting, as opposed to being something that's designed to sort of be fan service or just kind of please crowds. I don't think it's a bad thing in this case at all, but I'm really intrigued to see if things get a little bit more daring as the series kind of moves on from here.
And I would agree with you wholeheartedly on that, because a lot of criticisms have been thrown that way based off of the been there, seen that scenario. A lot of times that the plot sometimes adheres itself to of Star Wars: The Force Awakens. And it's still a great film. It's still a lot of fun. Moves very fast. Sometimes a little bit too fast to develop some of the smaller characters, who I hope we'll be able to see more developed in future episodes. But as far as the whole, I think it was just a lot of fun. And like you said, Glenn, as long as 8 and 9 are able to go ahead and take more chances and branch off into a slightly different direction that the previous films have done, and people will stay more interested into that as a whole. And obviously with the Star Wars movies that are coming out on a year basis, the other ones such as Rogue One and the Han Solo biopic and whatnot, or those films can also help a lot. Those stories flesh out those backstories as well. Jay, some final thoughts on actually the Star Wars: The Force Awakens, as you now have taken in almost a week now of full Star Wars Force Awakens glory.
Yeah, I just want to say, thanks to JJ for making a wonderful film. But more importantly, I'd like to thank George Lucas for passing it on, because it could have stayed with him forever, and there would have been no new Star Wars. So just want to say thanks to George. I know he's listening to me right now. So thanks for letting us experience new stories and letting the franchise live on past what he's going to do with it.
Absolutely, and I have high hopes for it as well. And I think it was just, in hindsight, we were all kind of worried as far as where the series would go once the announcement was made that Disney had acquired Lucasfilm. Obviously, there's still some entanglements with 20th Century Fox to go to. I know in 2020, almost all except for New Hope rights go to Disney as far as that's concerned. But I'm just glad to see the series going forward, and that a new generation of fans can actually take in Star Wars as their own, and not say, "Hey, that was my dad's or my mom's or my parents or grandparents, deal as far as watching the movie." They can take it in as their own as well and be part of the franchise just as much as previous audience as well. But we're also here today to talk some Game of the Year talk as well, and just want to let everybody know as well, if we have this great Facebook page that we just made, just created, just went up with all the polls on the best video games of 2015. If you head on over to Facebook and go to facebook.com/best video games of 2015, it's right there for you. All the polls, your chance to shed your light on your ideas and your thoughts on the best video games of this year. And since we all of us like to deal with video games and love video games so much, heck, you guys were even part of a film that dealt with video games as one of the main subjects of the as far as it's concerned. The best video game documentary to come out in a long time, Nintendo Quest. Obviously one of the highest rated films of the year, as I said earlier as well. If you get a chance, check it out. But best video games of this year, and guys, your thoughts as far as some of the games that you tried. I know we talked about Battlefront previously, and I know you wanted to delve more into Fallout 4J, but your thoughts on some of the best this year. Have you had a chance to take in more and think more about some of the best games that you played this year?
Yes, I will say this has been a very, very busy year for myself and with Mr. McCallum, and I think as far as games go, there was a lot more of us filming about games and talking about games than there was actually playing a lot of these games. But I'll give a few honorable mentions there. I really enjoyed Arkham Knights. I played that.
As long as you're not playing it on the PC.
No. And I wish I had a copy of that now because it's worth something. But Arkham Knight I enjoyed. One I never got to play that I wanted was the Metal Gear game. Metal Gear 5 I never got to. The new Tomb Raider is absolutely fantastic. If anyone hasn't played that, unfortunately it got released the same day as Fallout 4, which was a boo-boo on Microsoft's part. So I don't know many people that have played the new Tomb Raider, but it's absolutely fantastic. Of course, Fallout, I don't need to say a whole lot about that. And Battlefront, I've really, really been enjoying as of late. So those are some of the few.
Glenn, your thoughts on some of the games that you played this year and some of the games that you think would be Game of the Year type material.
Wow, I have to say, I'm kind of in the same boat as Jay. It's ironic that we can spend as much time talking about video games and spending as much time promoting video games as we can, and yet get so little time to play them. There's so many releases I just didn't get a chance to play this year, either because of time or because of money or for whatever reason. By no means is it my game of the year, but I find myself forced yet again to tip my cap to the ongoing saga of Destiny. I find myself going back to that game again and again and again and again, and truthfully, it's probably less about the game and more about the community at this point. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think there's a really awesome community that's risen up around Destiny, and it makes that game a lot of fun to play. And credit where credit's due, Bungie really worked hard to make Taken King something that was going to be a really worthwhile successor to the original game and deliver on certainly at least some of the promises that vanilla Destiny, as we old timers call it, was supposed to have when it launched. there's so many games that I'm really excited about that I haven't had a chance to play. I have not had a chance to play Super Mario Maker yet. I haven't had a chance to play Witcher 3 yet. Those are both games that would probably be at the top of my list if I'd actually had a chance to play them. And by reputation, I know there's a lot to look forward to there. But again, that's a great example of where time and money just didn't come together to help me play that stuff. But I do have a title in mind.
Okay, absolutely. And I can tell you firsthand, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt was a tremendous experience as far as it receiving any kudos as far as it's concerned is it's definitely warranted. And Rob can tell you for sure because Rob did a tremendous review for us on yourgamesource.com on Super Mario Maker. Also Jeremiah as well. Both gave it extremely high scores, and it is part of our Game of the Year poll that you can be a part of, and you can voice your opinion on the like I said, Facebook best video game of 2015. You want to check it out is again the facebook.com best video games of 2015. You have all the polls right there in the various categories, from best game of the year to best Xbox One, best PlayStation 4, best PC games. So there's just so many things you can vote on, and we're trying to get together everything is formulating on hopefully doing a contest. So if you like our page, like that page, again, it's facebook.com best video games of 2015. You like that page, we are trying to get together a contest so we can do a giveaway of some great stuff with our friends at obviously GamerCast, Galaxy Far Far Away, but also the folks from Nintendo Quest, which you guys are a part of course, and the great people Nicole and Doug at Retro City Games in Henderson, Nevada. I want to give them a great shout out because I was talking to them today. We're trying to finalize things as far as the contest is concerned, because we're really looking forward to having you share your opinion on the best video games of 2015. So I think that's going to do it today, because I know Glenn is still probably rather famished. I'm sure coming back from work and whatnot. So, but I just want to say to everybody out there, again, we're yourgamesource.com, GameSource on Facebook, and at GameSource on Twitter. But I want to also let you guys have your say as far as what to look forward to and what people out there should look forward to on all the great stuff that your guys are a part of. So, Glenn, again, just let us know what's going on with Glenn as far as and what should people stay tuned to.
Well, as always, GamerCast is now a weekly format, so we post GamerCast for regular listeners every Thursday at noon Eastern. I say regular listeners because we do have a Patreon campaign at patreon.com/GamerCast, and if you help contribute to the campaign to help us continue to make the podcast and pay for hosting fees and all that other wonderful stuff and get new gear and the like, you do get a little bit earlier. Usually goes up Wednesday night, late in the evening for folks who are contributing on our end, and you get a longer episode and some extra bonus content as well. I don't know if I'm at liberty to talk about what's next for the Nintendo Quest crew. We spent a little bit of time talking about it on the podcast this week, so I may have to drop a little tease in there for people to follow. Jay and Rob and I all have the gears turning, but suffice it to say, we got some ideas, and we're kind of excited to see what comes of that. My recent life change is I am now making video games. I'm working in production capacity at a mobile developer based out of London, Ontario here called Tiny Titan Games. Our current game is Dash Quest, and you can find that on iOS and Android. It's an endless runner with RPG elements. We're really excited about that. So I'm really pumped to be able to use my creative juices in a slightly different way over there. So that's something that's been very, very exciting for me these past couple of months as well. But yeah, that's Glenn's projects.
Fair enough. A lot on the table indeed. And, well, speaking of a lot on the table, it's been a great year for you, Jay. And obviously, just meeting you this year in person, in the flesh, was one of the great highlights, and being a part of all this pomp and circumstance was that the Las Vegas screening had to offer. I was just, again, it's one of the truly just awesome moments of my life as far as it's concerned, and greatest honors that I've had the privilege of doing as far as hosting that for you guys is just such a great honor indeed. And But Jay, what do you have going on down here, and as far as it's concerned, with all the great stuff you have going on with, well, Galaxy Far Far Away and much more?
I'd like to say it was an honor to meet you, man, and to be on your show multiple times now. I'm a really big fan of it. So again, anytime, just look me up and I'm here. Yeah, Galaxy Far Far Away podcast, hosted by myself and my good buddy Josh Schmidt. We're on episode 4 now. Just all things Star Wars. You can find us on Facebook at A Galaxy Far Far Away. Nintendo Quest. Rob and I are in the midst of writing a sequel. Yeah, so there is stuff in development, as Glenn was mentioning. We have definitely some concrete ideas that we're trying to flush out. That is in the future, I can say that. The immediate future holds the NES game based on Nintendo Quest, which will start production soon. So we're really, really excited about that. It's going to be like we talked about before, a Final Fantasy 1 kind of template. But again, we have to meet with the game developer and such to make sure that our imaginations aren't, bigger than what we can actually achieve in this game. So that's in the immediate future. And of course, Gamercast with three wise guys talking games, just shooting the breeze and having a great old time. And that's, of course, all that stuff can be found on NintendoQuest.com, and Facebook. It's Gamercast with Jay, Rob, and Glenn. So thanks again, my friend. I do appreciate you having us.
Absolutely. It's been a great pleasure indeed to have both of you on. You're always welcome on the show every time, anytime you want, to shoot the breeze on video games or Star Wars. Especially with this is now going to be a yearly basis now, and credit Disney for just going out all out as far as taking out all stops as far as doing this on a yearly fashion. Some people may get tired of it, but for Star Wars fans, indeed, this will soon be a great way to experience indeed. So
I agree.
because if you were a fan of the expanded universe and you were sad to see the expanded universe being pushed to the side, so to speak, that will be probably replaced here within the next 5-10 years as far as with all the things that are going on in the new canon, because there's going to be so much more in the new canon going on as far as it's concerned. So
And really quickly, too, I'm a big fan of what Disney did with the Marvel franchises, and how everything is tied together, kind of with the Avengers, all the way down to the TV shows, the Agents of Shield.
yeah.
And they're talking about tying stuff in with Star Wars Rebels, to the spinoffs, to the Skywalker episodes. So I mean, I'm all for it, man. I think they just run it fantastic. So I can't wait to see what's going on.
And I am as well. Glenn, your final thoughts or?
Oh wow! Just that I'm really excited to do this. It's really fun. I appreciate the invite to come and chat with you guys for a little bit. And I love podcasting. I'm always overjoyed to get a chance to do it with anybody I can. So always a pleasure to do that stuff. And I guess all I will say is it's been a really, really great 2015 for me, in large part due to Nintendo Quest and at least one of the guys on the other end of this video conferencing thing, and at least one other guy who's somewhere in the area you are in right now, Gerald. It's been a privilege to do this with these guys every week, and to go out and get a chance to tour Nintendo Quest and do the Power Tour, which everybody's able to see in those streaming episodes that have been posting monthly now. And I'm so grateful for it. It's been a great ride, and I love doing it. And I'm so appreciative of everybody who's been supporting us and watching us and listening to us and helping us kind of keep this train rolling. It's been quite a ride. So thanks, all the best, and happy holidays to everybody out there. And I hope you and yours have a wonderful holiday season, and look forward to more stuff.
Absolutely, and I do as well. And once again, if you are looking for a great podcast to follow, Gamercast is the deal. Also as well, Galaxy Far Far Away. Do make sure if you really want that extra bonus coverage, Patreon, be a part of it as far as the Gamercast is concerned. And of course,
your check's in the mail, Gerald.
No, just send it back. Just keep it in house, because I know how much it is as far as running a site and all this other stuff. So believe me, I know as far as the costs are concerned, all too well. especially when you're stuck with a bill when you don't expect it. But we won't go there. But and also as well, I do want to make sure that everybody again gets a chance to understand that Nintendo Quest is the one of the best films period of this year, one of the best rated films of this year. And if you don't believe me, go to nintendoquest.com and you can find out how to order it for yourself, and you'll be a believer as well. So for Jay Bartlett, Glenn Stanway, and oh, sorry,
I
you
just
just
want to say thanks again, brother. And it has been a great 2015, and I want to thank Rob too, who's not here. Rob for coming up with such a great idea for Nintendo Quest, and we really can't wait to show you guys what we have in store for the sequel. So that's it. I'm done. Thank you.
and absolutely, big shout out to Rob, not only for being on the front end of this podcast in the audio version, as you will hear, but also as well, this all couldn't have been done as far as us being together on this podcast and us meeting and the whole community coming together without, your efforts, Glenn's efforts, and also Rob efforts as well, Retro City Games, and the whole 9 yards. We just really appreciate all you watching, all you listening. This is Gerald, better known as Yes Elvis Lives, along with Jay Bartlett and Glenn Stanway. We really, really, truly appreciate you watching, you listening. It's another beautiful holiday in paradise, and we wish you the merriest of Christmas, and have yourselves a great holiday season.